Rocking and rolling with you until 8:30 today. Every Tuesday at 8:05, we're pleased to welcome a member of our business community into the studio to talk a little bit about what they do and how they do it. We call it the CEO Spotlight, and is brought to you by Vaaler Insurance. When it comes to protecting your business, nobody beats Vaaler. Doesn't cost a penny to ask some questions. To set up a visit, go online to Vaaler.com. That's Vaaler.com. We are pleased to be joined in studio this morning by Jim Kasper, and he's the president of Asset Management Group. You probably recognize the name as one of the lawmakers in our state as well, and has been in the North Dakota House since, 2000, Jim? Is that right?
2000, Steve.
My gosh. So he's been around the block a time or two in business and in lawmaking as well. Jim, thanks for coming in. Good to see you again.
Well, I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Tell us about Asset Management Group. What do you do?
We started back in the late 80s as a company specializing in cafeteria plans when that craze hit the United States, where employers could sponsor a plan to pre-tax the benefits that the employees purchased with their own money. Mm-hmm. We ended up putting a plan in for the state of North Dakota and most of the colleges and many, many private and public businesses around North Dakota. And then we transitioned in the 90s into also offering insurance benefits, dental, vision, group life, and things like that. And over the last 3 or 4 years, we've transitioned again into focusing on helping associations in North Dakota sponsor group self-funded health insurance plans for their members, which is a highly technical opportunity, but you really, really need the time to be able to go out and work with those association members, and that's where this virus has just stopped everything in its tracks.
Yes. You and me could talk about health benefits probably all morning. I used to work over Discovery Benefits, so we talked about all those things every day at work, too. It's fascinating to me. Most people will fall asleep when I talk about it, so we won't do that to our listeners here this morning. But tell us a little bit about how the business has changed since you started doing it that many years ago.
Well, the transition continues as circumstances change. When we first started doing cafeteria plans, we were charging fees to our clients. And then one of our friendly insurance companies in North Dakota decided to get into the cafeteria business with no fees. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you can't compete against free. So that's when we transitioned into helping the employers design their benefit plan, shopping the market with the various insurance companies for their group benefits, and then enrolling employees and explaining their benefit plans to them. And then as time has transitioned again with a larger groups having the opportunity through federal legislation to sponsor a plan for their small employers. Look at association as an example, like the North Dakota pharmacists. We have about 200 pharmacists all across the state of North Dakota. They average maybe 4 or 5 employees in their smaller shops, and they have no opportunity to negotiate or compete. They just have to take what the market offers.
Yeah.
When you sponsor a plan through their association, now you're able to use the large group opportunities so we can negotiate with the insurance companies, get much better rating, and have stability in the groups, and give those smaller shops the opportunity to be just like the big businesses that they compete against, like the Walmarts and things like that.
So at the beginning, you were kind of executing one element of a plan. Now it sounds like you broadened that over the years so that you're kind of being more of a full-service consultant or a broker to those different companies.
Absolutely right, Steve. The world out there has a lot of opportunities for businesses to look for their dental insurance or their vision insurance, and most small businesses don't know where to go. The broker or the rep with their insurance company walks in and says, here's your benefit package and here's the prices, and they don't know where they can go to find other opportunities. We represent our client and will negotiate with all the major insurance companies to try to find the best pricing and the best benefits for their employees. And that's where I think we shine as far as our services to our employers.
Well, and the experience you have of having been through this for so many years, you can give people a lot of perspective that maybe they couldn't get any other way.
Absolutely. And, the ability for a broker like myself to negotiate with the insurance companies. If I get bids from 12 companies, as an example, for the same product, and I can look at the top 3 or 4, and I can get on the phone and I can talk to those companies, say, we got to look at this, your pricing, we need a little bit better, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, we're generally able to reduce increases or actually decrease premiums for the future years. And that's another example, I think, where brokers like myself help our clients.
Tell me about a couple areas that you think sometimes small business people make some mistakes in their benefit plans, whether it's selection or rolling out or communication. They don't do enough consultation with their employees. What are some things that the small business people can learn from, maybe from what you've seen over the years?
Well, you mentioned a word that I think is important, and that is communication. The small business owner is busy working in his or her business. They're trying to figure out how they can make a profit, how they can find the employees and keep them. And they don't have time to learn about the intricacies of dental insurance. What makes a good dental insurance plan, as an example, compared to there might be some loopholes or some situations in the plan they have where they could have better opportunities. And then to communicate to the employees what those benefits are, how they can use them, and to give them an opportunity if they have a problem, call our office. Because when you have a problem as an employee, many times dealing with the insurance companies, you get on the phone on hold for 20, 30, 40 minutes. We have an opportunity to find out what the problem is and get right to the place where we need to intervene for those employees and those employers and help them out with the issues that they have.
One of the trends that we've seen in the healthcare world is high deductible health plans that you can pair with a health savings account. I happen to be a big fan of those because our particular family's needs and medical history says that we can have a little higher deductible, and that's okay because we're typically not utilizing all that much. Tell me what you've seen in that, and are businesses and employees, are they more willing to take a look at that maybe than when they were, maybe then more so than they were maybe 10, 15 years ago when these plans first came out?
You're correct, Steve. To begin with, if you talk to an employee that had a traditional $100 deductible 80/20 or 90/10 plan, and all of a sudden you're going to a $2,700 deductible, I said, holy cow. I mean, I can't afford $2,700. Well,
Yes.
When you go to a plan like that, the premiums go down for the employer and the employee. And therefore, when we can show them how they can take those dollars that were used to going to the insurance premium and put them in their own savings 401k type account and use those to pay those out-of-pocket expenses, they get a little more comfortable. Generally, the first year that you go to a high deductible plan, there's a lot of reluctance and a lot of fear, but we've discovered that as time goes on, the second and the third year, most employees would not want to go back, but they need to understand how they utilize health care, how they begin to take more control and looking at their own health lives and live better, exercise, and get into those types of things. And therefore, at the end of the day, they can build up dollars in those accounts, which can be used to supplement their retirement benefits because they get to keep it. It's their money.
Yes, that's right. It's a little different than the old flexible spending account, although flexible spending accounts have gotten more flexible as time has gone on too. But
Sure.
I'm a big fan of health savings accounts. I think they let you do so much. You put your money in tax-free, it grows tax-free, you take it out tax-free. There's nothing that really gives you that. What has the adoption rate been like that on products like that? Have we seen steady increase in people that are opting for HSAs?
We have, Steve, all over North Dakota and really all over the country. They're moving more and more toward the high deductible plans. You know, when you keep the traditional $100, $250 deductible and you're at $2,300, $2,400, $2,500 a month premium for a family, you're getting to the point where it can't be afforded. Mm-hmm. So we've got to be able to help those employers and those employees reduce those costs and then save some dollars on their own. So it's moved dramatically forward toward the high deductible plans over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
There's been a lot of talk recently with the virus and its impact on different things, and it seems like every business can point to a way that the virus has changed what they're doing or how they've done it. How about you with what you do? How has the virus changed the work you do or how you're doing it these days?
Well, it's changed my business model tremendously because when you're working with an association, going back to the pharmacy example, those small businesses need to be contacted. The board of directors of the associations need to understand how the plan would benefit the association and their members, which requires face-to-face meetings, traveling all over the state to meet with those employers and explain to them what's happening. And right now, people aren't meeting. So my business, from the perspective of new business, has pretty well shut down. And when you work on an association plan, it generally takes about a year from the time the association board of directors says, let's go forward. It takes about a year to do all the things behind the scenes to get to the point where that plan is ready to go. So I've got a lot of catching up to do as soon as the virus is under control and we can start moving around the state and talking to employers and employees again.
I think our sales team would tell you that over the last couple of days, yesterday, I heard some comments. People want to talk again. So I think we're gradually feeling like, yeah, it's okay to get back to doing some of those things again. So I know people in our team here have been pretty excited to see how things are changing a little bit. Let me ask you a little bit about your company altogether. How many people do you have that work with you, work for you? How are you set up?
We have 3 employees, and I have 2 associates that work in my office that have their own separate businesses. So we have a total of 5 that can work in the area that I'm in. But this is a specialized area, Steve, and I'm the rainmaker. I've got to go out and contact the people and make the rain come. And then, of course, the follow-up is very important, and we're able to do that. I'm working jointly with another friend of mine here in the Fargo area to move forward. And so you have to find opportunities to continue to provide the services and compete with the out-of-state companies. There's a lot of out-of-state companies in Minneapolis and Denver who are coming into North Dakota telling our employers how great they are. And generally what happens is their prices go up, and after they have the business for a while, those employers in North Dakota said, gee, Denver looks better.
Yeah.
They say, you know what, maybe North Dakota's okay. Mm-hmm. So you have that problem because we're not a staff of 100. We don't have our in-house attorneys. We don't have actuaries. We can find those services for our clients, but I don't house them, and I'm not going to pay for them. I give those savings to our clients, not to the people who fit in an office and draw the big salaries.
Do you find that employers and associations that you work with are starting to look at more atypical kinds of benefits to offer, like identity theft protection or telemedicine or an app on your phone that lets you shop and compare prescriptions and things like that? Do you find that more employers are asking you about those things?
That has not come up much at all, Steve. It may be coming in the future, but it's really not a big deal. The insurance companies are moving toward telemedicine, as you know, and that's an in-house thing, like with Blue Cross Blue Shield, who's doing a great job doing that, and I'm sure Sanford and Medica are as well. Those are the 3 big players in North Dakota for health insurance. But the employers are generally, again, saying, how do I make a profit? How do I keep my doors open? How do I get my employees back? How do I keep my employees that I have? Mm-hmm. So that requires, again, good communication to the employees about the value of being where they're at and helping those employees use those benefits the best way that they can.
Do you see a day when Aetna and Cigna, United Health are in North Dakota providing other options and giving us some price flexibility?
You know, that's a question that people ask a lot, and here's the answer. The insurance companies that are here now generally have negotiated very good provider discounts for the medical services. You take an Aetna as an example that has very little insured people in North Dakota, or United Healthcare, and they come in, and if they don't have contracts with the providers like Sanford that are competitive, they can tell a good story because we insure, like United Healthcare, 70-some million people across the country. But in North Dakota, they have very few people. So their contracts for reimbursement are generally higher to the provider, which means overall they're going to have to charge higher premiums. So the competition really has a lot of work to do. And when we're a state of 750,000 people, there's a limited market. So I don't see the big boys coming into North Dakota anytime soon. And if they dip their toe in the water, they're just going to make a ripple. They're not going to make a splash. They've got to make a commitment to our state, and then they've got to go out and get those contracts that make it competitive for people to look at their health services.
Do you feel that between Sanford and Essentia and Medica, that those give you 3 good options? Do you feel like we get good pricing, good amenities, good service? Do you feel like our needs are being met well by those companies?
Yeah, and Blue Cross.
And Blue Cross, yes, excuse me. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think those 3 insurance companies are some of the best in the country. Blue Cross has been a leader in healthcare in our state for, 50, 60, 70 years, maybe even longer. And Sanford now with their integrated method of buying hospitals and buying practices. That's an interesting dynamic where they're an insurance company and they own the medical practices. You have to be careful that we don't have some unfair advantages when you have an integrated system like that. Blue Cross, on the other hand, and Medica, they have the insurance and they try to do the best job they can with the insurance coverage. Yeah. So I think we have great providers in North Dakota with what we've got.
I also want to ask you about your job as being a citizen lawmaker as well. And you're doing the work for your business, and then you also give time to help the legislative matters in the state. How tough is it to balance those 2?
Well, it's not easy, but it's enjoyable. I'm going back today, going to be talking with an attorney here in Fargo who has a client that contacted me about a month ago, and they have a problem with social services with their kids. and they didn't know where to go. So I got an email out of the blue. They're a constituent of mine in District 46, and I responded to them, and now we're going to talk to their attorney, and we're going to try to intervene and help some things because they feel they're being treated unfairly by social services system in our city and our state. So that's part of the job. It's enjoyable because not only do you see the problems, but you can also come up with solutions. For the next session, I've already got about 7 or 8 bills I'm working on to work on reduction in property taxes. Special assessments is a terrible thing that's going on. The thing with pharmacy, lack of competition with the PBMs, which is a whole other issue that I could talk about for 2 hours, and a number of other areas that I'm ready to go for the next session. Of course, I got to get reelected. I'm up for.
I was going to
election.
ask you about that. Yes.
So you can't take anything for granted.
No.
And so myself and my 2 running mates, Jim Royce and Shannon Royce Jones, we're working very hard on our campaign plan, and it's going to be different this year. I don't think going door to door is going to be the way to communicate and to campaign. So we're looking at different ideas and methods and so on, and so looking forward to that.
All right. Well, Jim, it's been great having you here. Thanks for sharing some time with us to tell us about the business. I've visited with you many times about what's going on in the legislature, but we don't often talk shop. So thanks for doing this today.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks for coming in. Jim Kasper, he is the president of Asset Management Group, and he's been doing this since the mid-'80s, and a great wealth of information on that as well. 8:24 here on the Need to Know Morning Show on AM 1100 The Flag, WZFG.